heading to my grandmother's house. So, because we've been doing like weekly dinner, which has been nice. So anyway, like the title says, we become who we think we are, which kind of sounds weird, but I went through a ton of books and everything else, and they all say the same thing. At the end of the day, if you're not familiar, say that happens is basically for the first 7 years of our life, our brain basically I forget if they're beta or theta or alpha. I forget the one the one they are, but basically it's the same as like being in self hypnosis or hypnosis. So what ends up happening is like whatever your parents tell you, is what is typically going to happen to you, right? So if they tell you that you have to work hard to be successful, money doesn't grow on trees, and rich people are greedy and everything else. Well, what happens is you kind of like accept them as truths, and then unless you're like a sociopath, like you're not gonna become a greedy person, intentionally, right? So like if you're taught that wealthy people are just greedy, that's why they have money, then you're probably going to work against that, which is kind of crazy sounding, but it happens, right? Or same thing, if you think or you've been told that you have to work really hard in order to be successful, then whenever there's a problem that you're coming up against, then like, you need to make more money, so you're like, I need to work more hours, right? Instead of, and I always wondered why, I think for my family it was a little bit different, because for most of my family it was like middle class. For my parents, like they were horrible with money, and well, actually, but the weird part, so they were horrible with money. They went through bankruptcy at one point, and it was just because they were spending too much. But like we didn't really have anything, but yet they were spending too much. So it was a weird situation. But now they were actually able to. My mom doesn't really have to work anymore. Like she does like side things, like she was doing eBay and Etsy and stuff like that. Just because now they kind of figured out, like, if they live below their means, then they don't have to work, right? Because my stepdad is on disability at this point, so he has like a monthly check, and I think he gets something else. But anyway, so we have that. But for my family, like I said, most of them are middle class, work and go to college, and actually not all of them went to college, but middle class. But then my other aunt and uncle, they own 16 McDonald's, right? So back in the day, I was actually jealous of my cousin, like super jealous, and I would say to myself, like I was like one aunt away from like having this great lifestyle, right? And so, which got me to thinking a lot that the rich and the difference between the rich and the poor is really that the rich have figured out what to do with the money, number one, and then they in turn teach their children. Like it's pretty damn simple. Like the stuff that I talk to my son about now, like it's just completely different than what I was taught, and it's simply because like they didn't know any better. Not that I'm like so much further ahead of them in life or anything like that, because I'm still in the process of figuring things out, and I really feel as though I'm like on the cusp of like greatness. I don't even know if that's the right word, because what is really greatness? But hitting my goals financially, I'm really close. Like we do well, but like we're always looking for more, obviously. And but anyway, like we have to like go back and really analyze what we were taught, what we think on a daily basis, if it's true or not. Because what ends up happening is that whatever you were taught and whatever you hold to be true, again, if money doesn't grow on trees, rich people are, greedy, and, they take from the poor and blah, blah, blah. Well, what happens is that's all in your subconscious. So what they say, there's no way for me to verify this, but what they say, and this is not just like one doctor here, one doctor there, but like a lot of them are in agreement about this, but like your subconscious runs like it runs your life, because your subconscious, if you think about two record players, like one record player is kind of like your subconscious, the other record player is when you're actively involved, right? So if you think about this, what they're saying is like your subconscious record player is playing like 95% of the time. So whatever you have in your subconscious, like that's what's going to happen, right? And what's going to come through. And if you think about it, it's true. Like think about from the time you wake up until like lunch. How much of that are you actively involved in all this other kind of stuff? And then driving to work or whatever else. Like how many times have you driven somewhere and you're on the, like for me, I used to have to drive back and forth. It was like 40 or actually 45, 55 minutes each way, right, to work. There and back. Like I was on autopilot. There were so many times, especially going home, I'm like, how in the hell did I get here? Because like I would be completely zoned out thinking about something else, and then I get to like a few miles down the road, I'm like, shit, I don't even remember anything that just happened, right? Same thing when you're brushing your teeth. Are you actively in where it's happen? You just do it, bro. Are you thinking like consciously grabbing the toothpaste, or you kind of know where it is and like you just grab it? Are you consciously looking at the thing while you're unscrewing the cap, and are you consciously really looking at it while you put it on the toothpaste or on the toothbrush? Think about it. Like you're just not, right? And because we get in these ruts and we do the same shit all day, like if you're like in whatever your business is, it's the same thing. Like when you're doing as a fence company, like are you really thinking about what you're doing? A lot of times, no, right? And so that's where the subconscious runs. So what do you do about that, right? Well, one of the things that's helped me, and I have to go back to it because it's like you kind of know, like at this point I've done so much research and everything else. I know what needs to be done. It's just I kind of do it and then stop, and then I'm like, now it's like, why did I stop, right? So one of the things, it was in this book, it was an audio book. It's called, I think, called Prosperity Consciousness. And so it was basically this guy. It's back in the days when they had like the CD, like the cassette tapes and all that kind of stuff. But like he would do these lives, but then he had recorded some of them and did this like 8-set tape set or whatever that they used to do. And one of the things that's really helpful, and I have to do it again, is whatever your goal is. Say it's like financially, right? So if your goal is I want to make $500,000 a year, right? So what you need to do is one, like whatever you want to do, that's fine. But you also need to have a mirror, a piece of paper, and a pen, right? And then so you are going to say to yourself, like literally look at yourself in the mirror and say, I deserve to make $500,000 a year. Okay? As soon as you say that, there's going to be a voice inside your head that says like, yeah, right, but yeah, but, and whatever those excuses are, write that down. Like there's probably just going to be one excuse at first, and sometimes you might have to say this multiple times in order to get that excuse to come to you, right? And it might be like I've talked about in other videos, but like it's important to say this because I think it's holding a lot of people back. Is that you, like for me, it's like when I said how much money I want to make, it's like yeah, but I don't know enough, right? And I don't know how. Well, it's not true. Like I've spent tons of times. Like we had the business in place. Like there's things I know that I needed to do in order to flip the switch on the business, so I can easily make $500,000 a year or like whatever I want to make, right? And then so once I got through that, like you're kind of just like, is that true or is that not true? Like what you're saying, and a lot of times it's just not true, right? And then so after you get past that one, you would say like, I deserve to make $500,000. Like say that again, right? And you have to be specific, like $500,000 per year, right? Or even break it down further. Like I want to like deposit $40,000 into my account every single month, something like that, right? And because the more specific, the better. And then so anyway, you get past like for me, it was like I didn't know enough, but that wasn't true. The next thing was I haven't worked hard enough, right? And that wasn't true because I've like not now, but in the past, like I've put in like 100 hours a week. But actually, if I say this now, like if I say I'm not working hard enough, like that's true. Like honestly, it's true. And then so anyway, I would get past that point, and it's like I'm not a good enough person, right? And because you're finding all these reasons, like your brain's finding all these reasons why you can't possibly do something or achieve something, right? Because of everything you were taught in life. And it's not even just like when you're a kid, it's like everything. It's all your experiences bundled into one that forms who you are, right? So it's kind of like breaking down those barriers so that way you can get to be the person you want to be, right? And so anyway, that so you keep on going through that process on the pen and paper, and eventually you get to the end and you're like, there may, in my case, like I'm not working hard enough, right? Well, that's not even true. Like working hard, it's not. I'm not getting enough shit done. Let's put it that way. So it's not a matter of working hard. That's a matter of putting the pieces in place and the people in place to get the shit that I need to get done, right? So anyway, so get to the end of your list. You might find things that are valid, and there's things that you might have to work on. But there's a lot of shit that's in your head. There might be like 15 things on the list of why you can't do what you want to do. There's probably only 2 or 3 of them that are true. But once you find out there's 2 or 3 that are true, then start working on them, and then have that same conversation with yourself in like another week, 2 weeks, month, whatever it happens to be, and do the same thing, and then you can cross off that one, and then you got 2 left, and then you just keep on doing the same thing. So anyway, I'm going to start that shit back up today because I stopped doing it for a while, and I shouldn't have. So anyway, hope you guys have an awesome day. Sorry it's noisy. My son's coming back.